So welcome everyone once again, and apologies for this hiccups at the beginning. And let's hope we'll stay without any technical issues today for the rest of our session. So our guest today is Aki Salmi from Finland, and I'm really excited to have Aki here because he's one of the people I've met thanks to IT Matters project. He was speaking at the conference in Warsaw in 2019. And since then, we've been in touch. And I'm really enjoying Aki's company. So I'm really happy we are here to get together. And today we're going to talk about empathy at work. We asked you to give us opinion on which approach we should take, which approach that, because Aki proposed two approaches, as for individual and for team. And from the vote we received from you when you registered, there was more votes for individual approach. So that's the one we're gonna take today. And Aki, maybe you can tell, because I started with some private things about you and my experience, but maybe you can introduce yourself properly and tell a bit about yourself before we start.
All right. Hello all. Wonderful to be here. I'm really happy to be on this webinar with you, Joanna, and to hopefully talk with you about the matters that matter to me a lot: empathy and listening, and how, especially in this case, how we can change within ourselves to help a change to be true. So about myself, I'm a programmer. I just love programming. I just love that. So in my heart, I'm a programmer. I also do run communication trainings. I am professional supervisor, which is pretty much like organizing retrospectives with clients like every 3 weeks, but the clients might be from nursing homes or schools or hospitals. And then I also, that's more or less like my hobby, I do work as hiking guide. So I love things like with ones and zeros, which is the code, and then everything in between, which is the human aspect of the work.
Okay, I can see that Daria says, seems they last longer than mine. It seems like it, yes. It's true.
Probably not. Yes. So shall we start the presentation part?
Yeah, sure.
So let's see. It's like this. So what I want you to do is, because I can't. So because we don't have a breakout rooms or anything like that today. So what I'd like you to do, and I ask you to ask questions and like come and to have a conversation with me this way. And maybe I'm not sure if Joanna, it's possible to have someone ask a question live, or is it possible if someone really wants to ask a question?
You mean like with the sound, or?
Yes.
Yes, we are. There's a small group of us today, this evening. So I can actually, if all of you would like that, we can switch into discussion mode, which means you can all speak if you have a possibility. If you have a microphone, headphones with you, then you can ask a question or just make a comment. I think it's possible. We haven't done it before, so we'll see how it works. But yeah, if you agree to do that, if everyone, maybe you can type in your type in the chat box if you're okay for that. If we change for the other mode.
And it's totally okay to
say no.
To say no. We'd rather have one person saying no than to be reluctant to be on the discussion mode.
Yeah. No, the camera, just to make sure, there's no possibility in this tool to use the camera for other people than presenters. So camera will be only working for me and Aki. And for you, I hope it would work with the microphone only. So the sound. We're going to test it today, if you agree. Okay. I'm not sure if everyone had opportunity to give us permission for it. Antonella is okay. Daria okay. Beren okay. Jarek okay. Okay. There's still Aisha. I'm not sure if she can hear us. Okay. Oh yes, she's like yes. Okay. So yeah, so we can. I'm gonna switch now into the discussion modes. Okay.
Perfect.
And I think I will have to unmute you.
I guess people can unmute themselves. I'm guessing.
Yeah. We think so. Can you just all check if you can unmute yourself? If you would like to speak.
No, Daria, maybe.
Testing.
Yes.
Hello. It's working.
Wow.
Okay, so Daria, Beren, you're on. I can see that. Maybe we can check the rest as well.
And also, this is like good. So there's like option for everyone that if you want to have your questions written down, you can also use that in chat. So that's course. Like completely okay. And if you want to just ask and just jump in and ask this question, I think we can.
It doesn't work for Aisha. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe we'll go with this. Let's see what happens.
Yes.
let's be curious on whatever is happening. Thank you so much everyone for joining this webinar today. All right. So this was one conference talk that I gave in one other city in Tampere in Finland, and this logo here is from a local ice hockey team from Turku, which is sort of a rivalry city. This is sort of a joke here. But sort of, I think this is one key aspect of one of my learnings that I had during my years is that of all my opinions, the one that folks value the most is actually the one that I keep to myself. And I think this is for me quite interesting idea that maybe my opinions, maybe people value the most of the opinions that I keep to myself. Well, let's see. We'll get back to that later. This is pretty much the reason why I was invited to IT Matters, because I was asking, where would you want to hear about topics like this? And this is what we're going to talk today about, and how I've seen IT for me has been really sort of black and white. Really, it's like true or true, false, success, failure, and that our like job description for programmers is to find errors from written text, just for example. Then we talk about opinions. And it's a story. It's a journey from like my personal journey, and I invite you also to have a discussion with me today on this journey. So this is not a project. So, and one other thing is that I'm actually never finished, and I'm like never done with this learning. And also, what I want to share with this talk is that it actually it only takes one person to make a difference at workplace, for example, and in like the community, small community that we live in. So I did already introduce myself. So I'm a really embarrassed to see that it says working at Ambient. I nowadays work at Brighter, which is like super interesting company, a super cool culture that we have there. That's not so interesting. But this was something that I at some point I realized myself that I was seeing that maybe the things that in IT they are, at least that was what I saw, they are pretty black and white. Things are either true or things are false. So it's like either or. It's either this or it's this. It's there was never like any gray matter or anything like that. And the arguments that we had, the arguments that I had were really like counterproductive. And if I was saying like it's this, and the other person would say no, it's that. And often our viewpoints were a bit different. And sometimes even these opinions are about like aesthetics of program code. Where do you put curlies or where do you put spaces or for things that honestly don't matter at all in the end. It's about like almost as believing as a thing that there is such a thing as that being right. And I used to get into these arguments. I used to get a lot of into these arguments, especially like early in my career. And I'll say one example that was like 5 years into programming. So that happened 2008 probably. And I knew it all. I knew about this thing called Agile. I had been to one conference. so that was like, it's sort of embarrassing also to say that it was like after 5 years of being working, it was as if I knew it all. So there was this one situation where I did send an email to my colleagues complaining that we don't do Agile. I think in the words I did use, we don't do Agile. That was the last thing I did before I was going back home. I could say also that's not a good thing to do. And I had like 30 minutes commute, and in the car when I was commuting, and I had emails on my phone. I was reading the responses, and that wasn't really happy moment. That was not like my high moments of in my career. And I think it was something that inside me, like a frustration that had no other means to get through. So there was like hidden a frustration in me that just bubbled in this quite violent way. But I didn't want to. I didn't really want to cause any harm or anything like that. But I used to get into these arguments, and when having this different opinion than others. And I did want to win. I guess I honestly did want to win. maybe the reason why I wanted to win was that I might have sought for approval. I might have sought to be seen as a proficient IT worker. It might have been something like that. But I didn't want these conflicts. As I said, I did not want this. And later I realized that it was just like it was past me. It was my mind patterns. It was the way that I used to handle these situations. Come on, I want this stupid smartphone connected. Sorry.
Technology is not on our side today. Don't worry.
No. Yes.
Don't worry.
Yeah, it's just a bit embarrassing, but it's okay. But it was sort of like my patterns. It was my like past me who was in control of myself. And maybe that is what I was doing at that time when other people were saying anything. I was sort of just listening to respond. So it was as if have you ever been to this? So this is our first moment where we can have a bit of this discussion. Also, I invite you to have this discussion with me. Is that you have this discussion with someone, and this was what it was for me. It was as if I was waiting for the other person to inhale so that I could like place my card on the table. So this is what I think. And then I would talk as long as I could. And then when I inhaled, the other person would do the same. Just to listen to respond. So has anyone of you seen or experienced anything like this, what I've said so far in the IT? Or is there any like comments or thoughts?
Well, I can say that I think it's what you said, that when people talk to each other and they one person is just waiting for just this short break, so I can say whatever I want to say without actually letting you finish or concentrating on what the other person is saying. It's quite common, and it's not only at work. I think it's common in human interactions nowadays. That we don't really. It happens to me like it even happens to me sometimes when I talk to my husband or to my friends, and because we are so into our heads and we want to say whatever it is on our mind, that we don't really let others have that space. So exactly. I would definitely agree. It happens to me. I'm not proud of it, but yeah.
And sometimes it's totally okay. It doesn't mean that listening to respond is bad listening. I don't want to say anything like that. It's what I think it's good to sort of know that it happens, and it's human that this happens. And sometimes I'm guessing this doesn't like consume that much energy from our like brain perspective. Which I think it's quite often quite good thing.
I can see that Daria is unmuted.
Yeah, because I would like to add that it happens to me as well, unfortunately. And when I'm thinking about it right now, it comes with a sort of surprise that it happens, and despite I have really good intentions and I sometimes want to be helpful at stuff like that, sometimes people do not need my help.
Yes.
And I can be overwhelming to them with what I have to say because I want to save the world. That's one thing. And the other thing I've seen in IT world, and sometimes the systems are just supporting that, is when two experts or just specialists want to know better or own the truth. but that's also because the system, praises sort of those who are right and who have better knowledge. So in such circumstances, it doesn't matter what you have to say, because the most important thing is my annual bonus, right?
Oh yeah, yes. So whenever we tie money into the equations, things get really weird. I saw that for 7 years. On my first 7 years in the career, that was just absurd, I would say, with the bonuses. And what I want to take from that, Daria, thank you for joining conversation. Is that, yeah, we often do this with our sort of this good cause. We want good. We want to help other people, and we want to like save the whole world, and we might want to like all these beautiful, nice things that we want to do for people and do for the and sometimes it comes as this as we're listening only to respond. And I do that with my wife, to be honest. Sometimes I just when she says something, I come up with this, and I'm really embarrassed. Now you might see that. I might come up with this like solution for her problem, and she might say, I didn't want a solution here. And it's like, yes. But it's I'd say it's good to realize that when we are actually on this mode of listening, and to realize that part. But I'll just continue a bit more about going back in time into 2008 or something. And I remember that at the time there was this one Google presentation of one conference where they said that please do rock the boat and have these questions. And I did have a lot of questions. Like I wanted to question everything and everything, like everything there was that I could ask questions. Why do we do this? Or it was as if I was doing that. But I was there then to listen for the response. So I just wasn't there just to ask the question and not waiting for the answers. But then I also later found out that not all arguments are good for the team spirit. I see that not all arguments help storming in this like TACMO model of forming, storming, norming, performing. I mean, some arguments just, again, this is like my perception, and please do jump in if you want. That some arguments have this destructive power. Well, not arguments, but the way we handle those arguments. Not conflicts by themselves don't have this destructive power, but the way we handle those conflicts and the way we handle arguments can have this violent and destructive power in that. But I read from so many places that conflicts are good, and I was like, what? What are you saying? Like in these agile conferences where people said that conflicts are good, so it's really crucial for teams to have conflicts. And I was like, no, not the conflicts that I am in. Those are not good conflicts. And then at some point, that might come later also in this presentation, I don't remember, but at some point I realized that there was like one thing in common of all the conflicts that I was in. Like there was one thing in common in all the conflicts that I was involved in. And guess what it was? You can say or you can type it. Yes, Bere, you're right. It was me. I was the common denominator of all the conflicts. And at some point I realized that, yeah, there's something here. Yeah, so this is a bit of a sidestep from my story into a bit more into what happens at what you might hear at conferences about the project Aristotle. And there's this 5 dysfunctions of a team. This is a bit of like part of what do you mean? What is it, like theoretical part? And then we might talk about NVC in conferences and trust. So this project Aristotle was this Google study, and what they found out in this study of made for like 180 teams probably, and they were looking for 120 different aspects of teams, and figured out that it's not about it's less about, what was it? It's more about how people are structured and work than individuals. And they found out that the most important factor is actually psychological safety for high-performing teams, which means that folks do feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. Then there comes the other ones too. Oh, sorry, I was in the wrong window. So I draw it like in triangle like this. You see soon why. So psychological safety was the key of high-performing teams in this Google study. And then there is this 5 dysfunctions of a team. Has anyone read this book?
Yes, Daria did. Actually, we once even had a little competition on IT Matters website where you could win this book because we talked about it also at the other presentations in Warsaw, and yeah, so it's nice that you mention it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I have a link to the project Aristotle, so I can paste it here on this chat one before we end. And if not, please, I will at least send it to Joanna later. But this is how often this is drawn, and the idea here with this book is that lack of trust leads to fear of conflict, and if I'm afraid of conflicts, I don't get to say my opinions in for example, in meetings. And if there's no other opinions, there is no commitment because I'm not being heard in this meeting, so I don't commit myself. Lack of commitment leads to no accountability, and lack of accountability leads to inattentions of result. And then when I draw these two together, I saw like trust and I saw psychological safety in the core of high-performing teams. So trust is the key element of high-performing teams, and I'm guessing that we'll get to like second learning goal. Well, let's have a discussion part now. So if does anyone want to say anything, what's on your mind, or ask questions? Anyone? In the meantime, I did do a bit of Googling and pasted the link to the rework for the project Aristotle. But it's okay. We can continue then from the theoretical part back to.
Thanks for the link, Aki. I just wanted to comment that I am always stunned how it is possible that we know those kind of things, like that trust is a key element, or how to manage a change. And despite that, we often fail, right?
Yes.
It's just, I can't figure it out. How is it possible that all the theoretical huge knowledge that we have doesn't always go hand in hand with what we actually do, right? It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Just how can I move this?
I guess I do have one question. Since we're linking this to trust, and you mentioned before that you were always seeking for validation, how do we even, like, I can't even think of a question, but like, how can we get someone's trust if we don't know what we need to do to get it? Like, is it high performance that we would have to have for someone to trust us, or like, it can be so subjective.
So it was the question, how do we get trust?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Yay.
So this is from this is again, I'm like sort of walking in the shoulders of giants, or what's the saying. So this is from Brené Brown, from the book Dare to Lead, where she says, these are quotes, that it turns out the trust is in fact earned in the smallest of moments. It is not earned through heroic deeds or even highly visible actions, but through paying attention, listening, and gestures of genuine care and connection. And these again were based on studies that she has made. So she has studied these things a lot. So this is and based on the books that I've read, I do trust her studies in this situation. She also has this. So if you go to Google, and if you Google for Braving and Brené Brown, I'll do that exactly now. Braving, Brené Brown, you get this list of this link to 7 elements of trust. I'll just Google it for you. That's not correct. Just a second. Just do it this way. So that's a link to this Braving, and you can download that, and I would ask us to read about these things. So this is again from her studies, and she has this. It was the link also here, that this mnemonic of Braving, and this is how you can win trust or create trust. So the 7 elements of trust. And this is also like, I would want to have a bit of discussion on this, and one of the things that on the team level, this on the like empathy at work for teams, we would have gone through the same Braving, where I would have said that with a couple of different, like you can with your teams, for example, come up with strategies to meet the need for boundaries, or meet the needs for reliability. And I would have talked about what are the things that we do at Brighter, that we come up to these boundaries.
Maybe you can give an example of that, Aki. I think that would be interesting. Yes.
Okay. So boundaries, like, let's start from the boundaries. So you respect my boundaries, and when so for example, because we do a lot of async communication as a remote first company. So there was this one thing that I just realized that it did help my need to respect boundaries, was when people had like notification turned off in Slack, because in that way I can be sure that because I wake up pretty early, and especially for people working in Central European time, so if they have this Slack notification turned off, if I have things to say to them, even in the morning, I can actually send my Slack message, and I know that when they come back online, they will see it, and I don't disturb them with their sleep, for example.
A private life.
Yeah, exactly. if there comes like what are the others that I could talk about, I'll just go to my because I did also sort of mapping for boundaries for like empathy. Also, there's another thing that we are currently discussing, and like giving and receiving feedback, like for the integrity part. So if you choose read the integrity, which it says you choose courage over comfort, you choose what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy, you choose to practice your values rather than simply professing them. So we will have a proposal where we talk about how do we want that feedback is being used in Brighter, for example.
But is it like a set of rules that you have that you all agree to? Like they understand it well?
When we do this, like with proposals, also proposals is one way to do this. Like it's also it's part of integrity. How do we use proposals and how we can change the way we work? So it's like some internal way we decide like these practices or processes we do. So in these proposals, what we are actually currently doing, me and Benjamin, is that we go through, for example, practices and example questions, like how and suggestions, how do we want feedback to be used in Brighter? And then we do have a proposal out of this, and we ask for feedback, and people will give feedback about this. But it's sort of that part is sort of working process still. Reliability also, that is like resolving conflicts, and for that that's also a topic that we will consider today with this in this webinar. And yeah, as Astaria, you said, this is not a quick win. This surely does require time and energy. Exactly. It is a sort of long process. So any questions or comments for this? Maybe we'll continue. This was one of the exercises that I held at IT Matters, and like one of the core ideas of this exercise is that when we're listening, it is surprisingly hard to keep quiet. Like the first learning for listening is to listen and not say a thing. And it's surprisingly it can be a bit weird also for the person who does the talking, because we are so accustomed to this responding part. Yeah, so we get back to my story. So later I also realized that key to change is discomfort. So I started to this happened while I was studying a new profession, that of supervisor, this retrospective facilitator thingy. I learned about that that was a 2.5 year of me processing. That was like a huge process. Like for 1.5 years, I was just in such a rumble myself. I was sort of, I think I was questioning everything. I knew that I was in this process. I knew that I'm going to survive and I'm going to go past this strange time when I was trying to learn mostly about myself and how I behave. And that was very discomfort. That there was a lot of discomfort in this process that I was in. And what I want to say in this at this point is I did stay curious. So that was like 1.5 years, a bit more than a year, that I was really rumbling. I was really like questioning everything and not sure about anything. It was super weird 1 year. But I stayed curious about it all. And now this is something I want to talk about again from another Brené Brown's book about rising strong. And this is when I learned about this, that this is super important. And in the book she says, and I'm reading this also, she says that the day 2 or whatever is that middle space for your own process is when you are in the dark. The door has closed behind you. You are too far to turn around and not close enough to the end to see the light. So it's like total darkness. And these are like the 3 acts of a movie from Pixar, how they do the movies, the days. And here's the 3 acts of Pixar. So on Act 1, the protagonist is called to adventure and accepts the adventure. The Act 1 is the inciting incident, which for me could be the one where I sent the email, for example. Also, some smaller incidents happened later also. So Act 2, the protagonist looks for every comfortable way to solve the problem. And by the climax, he learns what it really is going to take to solve the problem. And this act includes the lowest of the low. So this was like my whole rumble for, honestly, it was 1 year of rumbling. And in the Act 3, the protagonist needs to prove she's learned the lesson, usually showing a willingness to prove this at all costs. This is about redemption. So what to do to resolve a conflict. When I learned about this, read about this, I like immediately thought, oh, well, this is my my story from this person that had this had this wonderful need to be understood and wonderful need to be seen, that chose to use strategies that were not suitable to meet those needs, meaning that I had these conflicts. I later tell you what was the time. I remember it, like specific time and place where like everything came very clear to me. So what does this all mean to me, and what is like my motto to go forward? I do remember that time. So this also time, this 2.5 years when I, as part of the studies, there was communications trainings during the whole 2.5 years studies. And there was this description of active listening where it says that good listener also returns the message without adding anything to it, trying to mirror the message exactly how it arrives. So it's just like using mirroring and all these kind of techniques to return the message back. And honestly, this is because we needed to write a diary during these studies, and I wrote in the diary that I started to see colors. So I started to see beyond ones and zeros. I started to see beyond what is right or what is wrong. And that is super strange feeling. I mean, that was like, what? It's not only black and white here. It was, what is this? It was super weird. I started to ask like questions. What is the meaning of things? From like for the questions that I previously had very strong opinions of this is right or this is wrong, I started to ask questions like, from whose perspective is this right? From whose perspective is this wrong? In what context is this right? In what context is this wrong? So later also started to have this thinking that how I described this time of my life was almost from the Trainspotting movie, choose life, choose curiosity. Also, what I realized that when I was rocking the boat, I really seek to be understood. I really seek for a shared reality from me and between me and the other persons. And I was super lost. I think I was like totally lost, and I didn't know any other way to do that but just like rocking the boat. Someone asked me at when I had this conference presentation, do I rock a boat anymore? Is that good thing or bad thing? Well, I don't rock the boat anymore, and I don't say if it's good or bad. So this was for me like very interesting time. So I started to learn to understand other people by the mind. So I started to really understand what, from like brain perspective, what the other persons were like saying, and that changed a lot. I mean that changed a lot. Like with this small change from having arguments, me trying to push my arguments towards the other person just to be seen as someone who knows, just to be seen as someone who understands, and to be seen as I don't know, proficient in IT, that I needed to push things. So I changed from that into some person who first seek to understand the other person. That was a huge change. Again, that was exercise we had in IT Matters. But this is like the learning goal of this talk. The number 3 is that understanding the difference between listening to respond to listening to understand, which is like the cognitive empathy, understanding by the mind. And I want to pause here and open room for anyone to comment or have questions.
I have to admit that I didn't know what to rock the boat meant, and I looked it up, and I'm like, shit, I do totally rock the boat. Like, I've been facilitating our team retros for a while now, and I realized that sometimes I make comments on purpose, hoping to bring conflict on purpose so that we talk about things, but now I feel like it might be really toxic. Like, why do I do it?
So is it that you'd want to be really sure that you want to be seen as someone who does those things just for the greater good of for the team?
I just do it because I feel like sometimes we hide dirt under the rug, and I do it because I want to take it out and talk about it so that we clean up. That's the reason, really. But
so sort of the need of authenticity and
to bring discussion. Like I guess I do it on purpose to discuss things. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I did too. That's exactly what I did. I mean,
good
totally.
Intentions, but
yes,
not necessarily a good result.
Not always. Sometimes. I mean, sometimes. And having this, and then having this space. I still do believe that if we can do this in safe space, and if we can handle that, and if we can hold the space of the discomfort. But I don't know if I can do that, Because there's so much of that thing in groups. So maybe that's the reason why I have stopped doing it. Doesn't make sense.
I've been rocking the boat for some time as well. Quite some time ago. I do it a bit less these days. But I think you rock the boat when you're in a position where you're not controlling the boat at all and definitely not steering. When you get yourself into more of a position where you do control the boat a bit, because you never control the boat fully, you start rocking it less. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a tester or a junior tester, then I was definitely rocking the boat because I was not happy at all. And I wanted to change things, and the only thing that I could do was rock it. But when you rock it, you don't know where you're going to end up. You might fall out. You might be the only one falling out.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
You know, in the system of rocking the boat, there's always like when I'm like picturing it in my mind, I also think about all those people that feel so uncomfortable while you rock it. Like, you know, that you're it's also like this reaction of others while it's happening that, you know, we often don't take into account.
Yeah, exactly. And do I see like what are the emotional reactions of all the people involved? Probably not. I'm not.
I think this Daria unmuted as well. Can I? Yeah.
Yeah, because I just wonder what was said about the dirt under the rug, right? It's very often said that that's exactly what a Scrum Master or a Agile coach or a leader needs to do. That's why this role is for, right? But on the other hand, I think that people do keep that rug for themselves because of a reason. And they keep the stuff under the rug for something. And it's not like I have a ready answer, but I just wonder how to, you know, help the team to grow and help them to clean their own mess without rocking the boat. Because sometimes you just have to, you know, point the finger and say that there is something that stinks.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, but it's interesting.
Would it be possible if we would add this question somehow, somewhere? Could someone, like, we would go through, because I hope that during this talk, this discussion, we come up with one answer that we could solve that.
Okay.
And type it in chat box.
Thank you so much. Because I do believe that I have different, like, also we could have sort of short, we could think about for a while. And I invite you all, again, I'm doing a bit of Googling. So thinking about, I totally agree with Daria, what you said, that people do keep dirt under the rug for a reason. So I invite you all to read those needs, those universal needs from this Center for Nonviolent Communication. And we could list those needs in writing here, that what might be the needs behind that kind of behavior.
Of hiding the things under the rug?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Should we write it down in the chat box, or can we talk?
Yes, please. Yeah, you can talk too. So you can talk or write it down to the chat box.
Okay.
Box.
Yeah, I just saw that you wrote it down, Aki. To be seen as competent. I think we're hiding something because we are afraid of the truth.
And when we're afraid of the truth, we want something. We crave for appreciation, like Antonella said. Maybe. So if we're afraid of the truth, what do we want then?
Maybe safety as well is one of the needs that is behind that.
Yeah, might be. Yeah, exactly.
No, because like if you're in an environment where there are no big changes, that also gives you this safety and stability, as Daria has also mentioned. Stability. Are we thinking the same things with Daria? Stability is avoiding the need to change, all the energy that comes with changing.
Yes. Do you know, these are wonderful needs people are having. People are having wonderful needs. Like trust that I can still work 1 year from now. Stability that brings trust that I don't need to change, because change is really like hard for our brains. These are wonderful needs, and also the strategy that we might choose to use, like hiding things under the rock, are just strategies that don't necessarily like help building the trust in the team.
Yeah, Antona, maybe also people could be afraid of admitting a mistake or anything else because they don't feel psychologically safe to open up. I think you hit the spot, Antonella. I think it's very often like that.
Exactly. So they're craving for trust. Maybe they're craving for companionship, community. These things, and they might fear that if they expose all of that, people will just leave them alone. It might be.
I think that for a lot of people, that working space is something. It's like this. I don't know. It's like the other world. It's not like we're not really being ourselves. You know. And like when you talk about all these needs, like I think people sometimes don't think about these needs like in regards to work environment, because it's like something happens to us when
people around me talk about these needs because I make them talk about these needs.
That's good though. But I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think that's it's just for some people it's like their homework are different spaces, they
yeah, and also the whole concept of needs, which is that we are needy. How many have heard from their parents that don't be so needy, for example?
That might be also a cultural thing a little bit, but when you say needy, I also think about like how people are like afraid to show their needs, because it seems that maybe they're showing a weakness at the same time. I don't know.
Exactly.
Antonella says, I feel like I need to be the same person at home and work. I think we all have this need, but maybe it's hidden somewhere for some people. But I totally agree.
Yeah, me too. All right, so I'll continue a bit further with this talk, and let's see when we stop next. So there is this like there's at least there might be even more types of empathy, but this is what I've used, like these three separations, like cognitive empathy, which is to be understood by the mind. Emotional empathy for me is to be understood and to be listened up by the heart. And then I love the way April Wenzel in Compassionate Coding and in these videos talks about compassionate empathy, about like meaning empathy, like emotional, cognitive empathy, and action. So taking action also. So here could be a slide here towards this talk from Brené Brown. I will just also give the link for you, just a second. Brené Brown on empathy YouTube. Just let's copy this, copy link location. Again, wrong. So this is something you can watch later. So it's like 3 minutes, and I really encourage you to watch that. So that describes the difference between empathy and sympathy and why they are so different. And also, she mentioned about the 4 characteristics of empathy, and in the book Dare to Lead, there's 5th, which is mindfulness. But the 4 characteristics of empathy are perspective taking, then staying out of judgment, and then the last 2 is recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. And even like for me, so I've been so far talking about me using the first 2 aspects in this story, this cognitive empathy, and the change that happened at work. So when I started to use cognitive empathy and use that at work, and this happened already like 2012-ish, and from ever since I've never had these conflicts anymore that where this happened. I never had these conflicts where how we handled the arguments had this destructive power, just by using this cognitive empathy, my cognitive empathy skills. Which meant for me, what I did basically when I had very strong opinion, and some other person came up with strong opinion, I started to be curious. I changed this into this, saying, is like, I really want to understand what you say here. I want to understand what you're saying from from your viewpoint. So I want to see what the world looks like from like your from your eyes. That's what I did. And then when this person had felt hurt, I could say, are you willing now to hear my opinion too? So what I thought about this situation. And yes, they did. And the strangest thing was also that what happened, that it was not just that I never was in these conflicts, but also when these conflicts started appearing like in the same vicinity where I was, like in the office, I could be there and help these 2 persons both to be heard by the other person. So I was sort of mediator between these 2 persons, just by applying the skills of cognitive empathy. I think that is like the one of the biggest superpowers I have in at work. But there's also this like emotional empathy, and that is to listen to connect. And what I've like done myself lately, like during the last 2 years, I've studied nonviolent communication a lot and been to like, I think 20 days of like practice, full days of practicing nonviolent communication, and there, like, that gives me so nice tools to really listen, to connect to what's alive in this other person. So what are the needs, feelings, and the needs of the other person that I'm talking with. So I'll pause here for a while, and I'll open up again discussion if someone wants to ask a question or.
I'd like to make maybe it's a question or a comment. I don't know yet. I'm thinking about this distinction between emotional and cognitive. Please help. Cognitive empathy, because it seems to me like one is the one we can learn, and the other one it's a bit harder to learn. I mean, like, isn't it something like that some people might not have as developed as others, like that have less of the emotional empathy power? I don't know how to say that. You know what I mean? That, you know, because we are also very different, right? And some people are better at connecting with others and with their emotions, and some are not, and they find it really, really hard. So do you think it's something that we can actually learn and practice? Like,
yes. I'm quite confident, because not only can nowadays, because if because one of the things that I can do and I've been doing is mediating couples, and I can even help couples in mediation processes to help them to be heard, like in emotionally, to connect on this level. I'm not sure. So maybe there are some people to which this is almost impossible to learn, and still I do believe that most of us, given time and given that we really, really want to be on the day 2, given that we really want to make the step and to lean to discomfort that happens when we are learning, I do believe that we all can learn this. And I'm just trying to find out my magic tools.
Daria is unmuted.
Yes, please.
It looks so nice when Aki is disappearing once in a while. But I wanted to comment, Asha, because I think that on the other hand, the emotional empathy, if it's too high, it can even be harmful if you want to help people, because the cognitive empathy seems so safe for whoever is helping the others. Because how I understand it, you process by your brain what's going on, and you understand the feelings, but not necessarily feel them too. So I would like to unlearn the emotional empathy a bit, at least. You know.
Do you mean like this emotional contagious or this part?
It can influence you very much. For example, if you're working with a team where are a lot of conflict and the atmosphere is really bad, and straight away you sense the anger that people feel, you know, it's all ugly, not very nice, and straight away you feel it like a sponge.
Yep.
And you won't be able to help them if it's on that level. You have to switch to the cognitive one somehow.
Yep. So learning, so understanding where and when, for example, as a Scrum Master or as a coach, or the same also happens as a supervisor. So when do I work in the brain level, and when do I go with the lift to the heart level?
Yeah, and where's the switch?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. I'll just tell you a brief story with this, if it's okay. So I was having this discussion with a possible client, like first for a supervision client, and then this client started to telling me some like things that they said that they are a bit scared and not sure about how safe they are in that situation. And I started to feel myself, okay, what is this thing here? And I was having my sheet of paper with me, and I just I wrote down something like I'm having this strange sensation, and then I wrote down what it was, like just my own feeling, and then I was calmed down. I felt calmed down, like, oh, now I'm at ease. And then again, I could start listening to that future client of mine, and like, I don't remember how long, but maybe like 2-3 seconds after I had just done this, like going from this I'm sensing these emotions into this calmness, that the client said to me with roughly these words. Of course, they were in Finnish, but they said, but what I'd really want is to learn how to regulate my emotions at work. I'm guessing. It's like 3 seconds after I just did it.
So
That was
basically,
weird.
you processed the situation and the feelings you had straight away.
Yeah.
Cognitively, right?
Yes. And also what I gave emotional empathy to myself. So I gave self-empathy to myself.
Within 3 seconds, you did all of that.
Yeah, within just me writing down things down, and I was like, okay, I basically nowadays I could say these words. Aki, it's so is it so that you're so this is my magic cards. And this is also one thing I can teach people to be empathic. I have cards with, this is like feelings in Finnish, Swedish, and English. So I could say to myself, so Aki, is it so that you are really frustrated, and stressed because you really want to be seen and heard, and you really need safety? And I could say those things to myself, and then I giving self-empathy to get me into this place where I can again listen to other people. Because sometimes it happens that when I get aroused or I get this triggered, my like I'm up here with emotions, and when I'm up here emotions, there's not much left for my thinking process, for my cognitive processing, if I'm like up here with emotions.
Yeah.
So what I need to
I
do
know
is
the feeling.
what I need to do, I need to get this here so that I'm like half and half. Then it's that, and when I'm at these situations, then I can listen to other people, and then I can think like from here better. And this is the magic. From here, people go from here to here with empathy when they're really being heard. And that's at least that happens to me.
Well, that's a mastery what you're talking about. When like I can totally relate to that feeling when you're up here, you have emotions up here.
Yeah, and then you have headaches and you don't even know why.
Yeah. And like the best I can do is like to tell to myself, don't make a decision now, or don't say anything. Just be quiet. That's the best advice. But what you do is like super quick. So
it's I'm not always that quick, and it's super hard. I mean, the hardest place to do this is home. This is so much easier in every other place than home. But I think like the hardest part for me is that if I'm like at this situation, it's easy if I recognize that I'm in this situation, because then I know how to get into to a situation where I can listen. But if I'm at this situation, I don't realize that. Then I'll just keep on working with this much brain power and this much of like everything that comes from the past.
It really is a habit, and it can be exercised. Actually, it's a habit. It's about creating space between the trigger and the reaction.
Yes.
Yeah, as you say, it's not easy, but I think it can be trained.
Definitely. And that's like one of the most interesting things about what I've seen also and experienced myself is that and I'll ask this question from you, and I'm asking you to answer this. How do you know that you're in this situation? How do you know?
I think that sometimes I don't know. I don't really know, like, or I realize a bit later. Yeah, because it's, as Antonella has written, it's hard to think when you're in that.
Yeah,
mode.
exactly. You have no. So there are a couple of things. I've learned one extra, but there's one thing that I always tells me if I'm here.
I stop breathing when I'm there.
Yes.
I can feel that. I really. That I don't really have any oxygen in me anymore.
Yes.
For me,
What
it's
happens to
my
your
heart. My heart
Yes.
beats faster. Also.
Yes. So the question is, where do you feel it? It's not where do you see, where do you think this, where do you feel this? So what is the place where you feel this? In your stomach. I feel exactly here. I feel it here. This is my place. Also, what I see is there's something really strange that happens with my fingers right before I get triggered. And I said, that's like when I'm here, and if I notice it myself, and then I can be easily here because I just give emotional empathy to myself. I get into this thinking mode again. But what I think is like real mastery is if and when I can, like, when I feel the trigger that, okay, something happened in my body, of course, I feel it in my body. And then I can give empathy to myself before I get into, so when I'm like, the lift is going up here. So if I can sense the trigger at this point, I can even stop it going from here. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
But that's super hard, and it doesn't work always. Like, especially hard it is with my wife, the person that I love the most. So it's super annoying. Super annoying.
Well, that also means that if we feel like that, it's never about something that we don't care about, like, you know. I get very, very emotional, and sometimes too emotional, some people would say, but it's always about the things that I care about so much. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's why it makes me feel so emotional.
Yes, and that's one of the learnings with NVC was the more intense the emotion, the bigger, the more important need it is for us that might be threatened or that we really want to cherish.
Yeah.
Like, I have this also works like both ways. So I'll tell you a bit another story. So I was watching a football, because my daughter, who's 10 years, plays football, started playing football a year ago. And there was one new girl who started playing this year, 10 years old. And she had her third game ever this Saturday. And they were playing against, like people who were really, really good. Again, 10-year-old girls, and this new girl was the on the defense line. So there's two people on the defense line, and that person was on the defense line and tried to go to left. And then, okay, I can't go there. So try to go to other side and give a pass to the other defender in front of the goal. And then, like, the opponents got it, and their attacker got the pass and just kicked straight into the goal. So basically, what happened was that this person who was on her third game made a mistake. Something that someone could say it's a mistake. And what happened was that what the coach said, so the coach yelled from the line to this person, "Oh, what a wonderful idea you had there. So you saw that you can't go this way. So you chose that you tried to go the other way around, and you tried to pass it to this other person that could then open up the game even more." And I was like so happy, and I was thrilled, and I wanted to celebrate, and I said that out loud then, and I sent an email to this coach that I said, this is so great, because this means what it means for the kids is that it's not about avoiding errors. It's about curiosity. It's about learning. It's about having this courage to try out things. So there was like, these are like so super valuable for me. So that's why my emotion was so high when I saw that. So it works like both ways. So if it's like very strong emotions, it might mean that the thing here that we're talking is something that is very, very valuable to you. Does it make sense?
It does, yeah. It's basically it's explaining why it's so important, like how we present certain information to people, especially about the things that are important to them. And something actually that brings me back to the talk we had with Crystal about feedback, receiving feedback. How that can what impact it can have on you, and I think it's a little bit like that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I surely did love that webinar too.
Okay, we are already at 8 o'clock. So
I mean, really, and so if it would be okay.
Yeah, okay. No. I'm not trying to stop you, but I'm just making
it explicit. It's 8 o'clock already.
No, because I know that maybe someone would like to leave, and I don't want them to feel like uncomfortable, because it was planned for a certain time. But we'll just continue, and it would be lovely if you could stay.
Yeah. So I was already like very close to the summary here, which is like, this is summary. I'm not going to. But thank you, Bera. Boundaries are important for trust. Yes, exactly. And it's totally okay if you keep your boundaries and leave. So that's like the summary.
Some lessons are already learned.
Yes. So this is the one thing that I said, that I remember this one time when I realized, and that was for me this moment of when I started to understand that now everything changed. Now I mean that was one moment when everything changed, literally, for me. I was on this. So during this training studies, these 2.5 year studies, we had this small study group, and then we, in the study group, we worked together. So it was 3 of us, discussed, and I had this one opinion. I had a really important opinion, and no one listened to me. How annoying that is! It was like no one listened to me. I was so frustrated. I was even angry. No one noticed that. But then I remember I was on bus. I'll just skip these two because this is. I just realized that I'm talking about this part. So I remember that I was on a bus. I was so frustrated. I was angry that I had an opinion and no one listened to me. And these people who I trusted, that I had this connection with. And then I realized, and I remember that I wrote exactly these words in Finnish. I wrote, what if my opinions do not matter? To anyone? Except me.
Mm.
And this for me was like, okay, what if my opinions, like if I have strong opinions, what if that is a signal to me, Aki, please listen. Listen to this other person first. So that was like, from that moment onwards, I really, things changed. I started to see like all the beauty there was. What do you think?
Antonella wrote, be who you are and do what you feel, because those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. It's a good advice.
Yes.
I like it. It reminds me a bit of a saying, another saying of, you can't love anyone else if you don't love yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds something similar.
And that's RuPaul from the Drag Race. He says that. If you can love yourself, how the hell do you want somebody else to love you, or something like that? So yeah, but that's actually very true.
Thank you, Antonella, for the feedback about the sky and the colors from gray to Technicolor. It was like part of the story that how it really changed.
I think that's a very difficult thing to accept, that when I look at it and I read it and I'm like, okay, my opinions do not matter. There is something that I feel that I cannot totally agree with this statement. There is something in me that say, what do you mean?
But they matter to me. They matter to you.
Yeah.
Right.
I get
and
the
they
point.
Matter.
But
I'm sure there are people to who they matter.
Yeah.
I think that just as I had this reflection on Crystal's talk, that we need to empathize with ourselves. Like, this is the same, I think. Like, if we care about our own opinion, if it matters to us, then it must be important, even though we don't have a crowd behind. I don't know, it goes back to being compassionate with your own mind, with what you're thinking, what you're feeling.
Yep.
But maybe that's my journey, and that's why I bring everything there.
So was it that you said that if because there was something pure cold that I really want to take that with me from here. So Was it so that you said that if the things that matter to me, what was it, that it's something that's very important for me? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that the strong opinion. So this is like ideas I had, and I really want to take that forward, that idea, because that really much resonates with like this NVC part of me saying that yes, exactly, the stronger my opinions, the more important need wants to be satisfied in me. So one of those beautiful, wonderful needs of mine needs to be met in these situations. The stronger the opinion. So also that means that so thank you for this, Antonella, because now I actually learned something else. So what I actually learned here, and you get to see me learning, like these two dots that are now together, which is wonderful, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. So what I take from this is, because my thought was that if I have strong opinions, that is a signal to myself, please listen, this other person. But also what it means, please listen to the most important person in my life, which is me. Exactly the thing what Beren also said, right?
Definitely.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I think we can see you, Beren.
Yeah,
Yes.
turns out the video is available to other people in the room.
Is it? Okay.
There we have Antonella.
Oh, awesome. So I've learned something today about this tool as well. Because it says something else. Maybe I just misunderstood. Everyone can speak and hear each other. Like hearing each other is not seeing each other, right? But it's good to see you.
So now, before we go, I let like everyone go, I would ask us to come back to this one question. Was it Antonella who first asked it, and then Daria also? What was it? The question was. I'll just copy paste it here. Sorry. How would Scrum Master do the job without rocking the boat if there is like dirt under the rock? Any ideas?
Yeah, by pointing out that there's dirt under the rock, and not necessarily saying this needs to go. Just saying, have you noticed this dirt? I don't know why it's there, or I don't really care who put it there, but anyone have an idea on how to clean it up?
Mm-hmm. What is this dirt? What is this thing that is under the rock? I don't know. Curiosity. I think curiosity is key ingredient here. What this is, if that's what you were also saying, Beren.
Mm-hmm.
But for some, even this little intervention will already be shaking the boat, right?
Yeah.
Like, we know there's no captain, but just don't say it out loud, yeah?
Also, what could happen is that a Scrum Master could have these discussions. This discussion, for example, where Beren was mentioning, maybe with this person in like one-on-one discussions, and like after there is this certain level of trust first, and that person trusts. So also coming that to Antonella's idea of helping to make a safe space, so that people can clean it out themselves. So making a safe space first, making sure that that at least like the tiny spot that is very close to me. If that like the tiny spot, if it's me and some other person, if that is safe, that space, if that like that tiny spot in this company is safe, maybe we can make that safe and then do exactly what Beren you mentioned, and help them to help people to clean it out themselves and support them in that quest.
Actually, when I think about it, so as a product owner, I want people to tell me that I want them to make clear that there is dirt. I know there's dirt. There's always going to be something. And I want to make make it kind of a mindset or a culture or whatever, that they point it out and they say, we have this thing, it really sucks, but we can't do anything about it right now because we don't have any time. It's there, it's explicit.
So is it so that you sort of also want shared reality on that part, that you both share the reality of there is this dirt and we all know, and we really know that it's there.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly fine with them making it my responsibility then. Like, you're the product owner, you prioritize this, put it in a backlog. We'll look at it when there's time. If you want more features, there's going to be more dirt. We'll just put it in the backlog, and it's my responsibility at that point.
So sort of there's like, is it so that there's sort of it maybe needs your need for autonomy and choice, that you can choose about this and knowing
And
those things.
It diffuses a lot of situations as well, because it takes away blame and responsibility from other people.
Yeah.
And you just kind of accept it and then ignore it for a while. Yeah. But Antonella asks a good question here. How about the backlog of feelings?
I can explain if you want to.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Okay, well, what I did a couple months ago, when it's like I'm like a clandestine Scrum Master, like I am, but nobody knows, and it's not official. But what I did was I started seeing things in the processes that perhaps made sense when they were put in place, but maybe didn't make much sense anymore. So I proposed that we made like an anonymous or not Excel spreadsheet with questions we had or things we wanted to discuss. And I said, like, I asked people, I'm like, do you know what grooming means? And they're like, well, no, like maybe, the sexual grooming, but not the other grooming. I'm like, well, it's what cats do when they clean up. And I said, I don't understand why we groom tasks and the product, but we don't groom ourselves as a team. So we called it team grooming, and we have it every 2 weeks after grooming. And we groom our processes. Things we do for no reason that we know of because the team is new. We just acquired behavior. And we see what works, what doesn't.
Depth.
Yeah.
It's like technical depth, but emotional.
That's wonderful. Like this process where there's time and space to pause and to look at the way you work.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes there are things like, I don't know, feelings or different things. Like, I don't know, someone said the other day, I think videos in bugs should be shorter. And that was for me, but they weren't accusing. And that was nice. Yeah. Team grooming.
Yeah, and
I don't know
again,
about
those
you.
things what you do together to build trust together. Have these things where you work together. And also, I'm guessing like in this situation that if like someone gives a feedback, so if that is this is all my interpretation, so just take this with maybe a grain of salt, if that's the saying. So like if there is feedback coming that is directed towards me, that is like we can think of that as if we are fishing. So there's like we're fishing, and there's like we have when we're fishing, the fish comes to see just a little bit. Okay, is this something eatable? And if it's eatable, then like we can try to reel it to us, and that no, it didn't catch it maybe, or it tries to take it. So this is really hard to say in English. I just realized because I don't know fishing words. But one of the ideas is that what I try to say here is that sometimes people try out some like small things, like small feedbacks, small safe things, and they try and they test it. Is this safe? How does this other person react if I say this? Oh, that other person took it really well. So that other person really wanted to learn more about that. Maybe that other person wanted to use empathy and really try to understand what is, for example, the need behind I had when I said this X. And then they might say more. They might come up with more important topics. So like for me, it's like every encounter is a chance to improve trust. Was that helpful?
Absolutely.
Or clear enough?
Something you build up slowly, but you lose very, very quickly.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Did we answer to this question, Daria?
I don't know if Daria is
Yes. I mean,
Just
there are
very-
many possibilities. But yeah.
Exactly. Many ways. And I'm not saying that rocking the boat is wrong way.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Aki. I don't know if that's the moment we could slowly wrap up. Thank you for your time and for this. We almost feel like we had a private session with you. It was very nice.
I really loved it here.
And well, any last comments at the end?
Thank you very much. This is wonderful. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you all. Thank you for joining this discussion and this exploration with curious minds.
Oh, and Antonella have 3 pages of sketch notes. Amazing. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Always a pleasure to meet with you. And
just one
Aki,
more
thank
thing.
you. Yeah,
because
sure.
there is no other people with their faces and their like sounds, their own sharings. So I'd also like to, before this would be published, like I would really want to be cautious if we are to publish this, that there's always this option like cut those places if other people are sharing. if that's okay, or ask if it's okay to share these questions.
For me,
Again,
it's okay.
boundaries. Did you, was I clear enough with my request?
You mean the questions we wrote down in the box, or
More or less that
Yeah.
if you want that those parts where you shared yourself maybe would be cut.
You mean the video and the voice, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you could share that to Joanna, then I'm sure that will be.
Yeah, of course. Of course it can be done. If there's anything that shouldn't be like exposed to larger audience, then we can always edit the video. So it's not a problem.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll just put the AV view for a moment. Oh, so we can see each other better. There's a parent there. Okay, so again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Aki. Thank you everyone who joined us today. And have a good night. Be kind to yourself. Have a lot of empathy to yourselves. And then apparently it will help you to have a more empathy to others.
Yes.
So on that positive note, have a good night and see you next time.
That was wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, and thank you.